It's that time of the day of the week again where we do some news of the week. And this week we start off with talk about Inter Miami, who have signed Matias Pellegrini for $10 million as their first ever signing in MLS. Now, this has been rumored for a couple of weeks now that he was potentially going to be one of the signing for Inter Miami. There's definitely been a lot of rumor of who exactly is going to be the first signing and who's going to Inter Miami. And strangely, most of the rumors have been coming from South America, and that most of these players that potentially is going to join Inter Miami are these young, talented South American players that Inter Miami is looking to recruit for. Well, they got one of them in this instant, and in some way, when I look at this signing, this definitely felt like a Miguel Almiron kind of signing that Inter Miami is trying to get. You know, like when Atlanta paid Miguel Almiron, a lot of people didn't really know about the fact that he was a very talented player, and that once he come to MLS and where he just completely teared up MLS, now we know that Miguel Almiron was a very talented South American player, and that also kind of start the trend in terms of many of these clubs decide to go to South America and trying to get these young kind of talent into MLS before selling them all for profit. And I have no doubt that Inter Miami is going to try to do the same thing with Pellegrini, where they hope that, you know, they're going to get something like a Miguel Almiron type of player that is going to score a lot of goals and be a guy that is going to definitely tear up the league, so that they can of course sell him off of a big profit that they are going to do in the future. Because remember, they paid $10 million for this, which is a lot of money for a South American talent, youngster. And that I remember when Miguel Almiron joined Atlanta, I believe it was only like $5 or $6 million. So yeah, something tells me that this is going to be a move that, you know, I don't know a lot about this guy. The only thing that I can dig in terms of finding some information about this guy is that he scored 3 goals and recorded 1 assist, and one of the goals were in a cup final. But other than that, I don't really find a lot of information about this guy. He also made around 15 appearances with his old club. So yeah, we shall see if the hype and the amount of money that Inter Miami bought this guy is going to be worth it. Because remember, not every single South American talented player comes to MLS is a complete success. We also have some big busts that has happened in these last couple of seasons where teams trying to do what Atlanta did. And yeah, we shall see if this is going to be a good move for them, or it could potentially be a big bust. And there's also no doubt that Inter Miami is still going to sign some bigger name player, and that, you know, Inter Miami right now probably have the richest transfer kind of budget right now in MLS, because of the fact that Beckham is going to throw a lot of money into this team, and he is definitely going to convince some of those big kind of name guys like Luis Suarez, Antoine Griezmann, or even Cristiano Ronaldo or Messi coming to Miami if they ever are rumored to come to MLS. Now, the other expansion team, Austin FC, have also made a big announcement, and that they made an announcement that they are going to be naming their first head coach, which is Josh Wolff. Now, this is a guy that is very, very familiar to Anthony Precourt, because when Precourt was still in charge of Columbus, he was the assistant head coach of Greg Berhalter, and he was the assistant head coach for about 4 years. And it seemed like when Precourt decided to hire this guy, it was just that he just wanted to hire the guy that he knows will get things done. And he's done a very good job when he was with Columbus as an assistant head coach under Greg Berhalter. But one thing that I do have a little bit concern about this hiring for Austin is the fact that he has never been a head coach, and that, you know, he's been an assistant head coach for Columbus and with the national team, but now he is going to get his first head coaching role. And you know, the fact that being a head coach is definitely a big step up to being an assistant coach. So yeah, I mean, this is definitely an interesting kind of signing, and that, you know, we don't know exactly what his philosophy is going to be. Well, from what I heard is that he want to try to do something that is different from what other people do. Kind of something similar to what Matias Almeida is trying to do with the whole man marking system, and that it's different from other. Although I don't think Josh Wolff is gonna do that, but he did say that he's gonna try to do something different from others, and I don't exactly know what that is and whether or not if it is actually successful. So we'll find out in a couple of years when Austin does come into the league, and of course he of course taking charge of this team for the first couple of games. But moving on, Zlatan Ibrahimovic will not be suspended for elbowing El Munir at the end of El Tráfico. So one thing that I didn't mention in the review is that right near the end of El Tráfico, there was an incident where Zlatan basically was jumping to trying to get the ball, and the same goes with El Munir, and that he knew El Munir was right next to him, but he still elbowed him at the same time, and Zlatan didn't get a red card for that, or even a yellow card for that. And that, obviously Disco decided that it is not worth that, even though it's clearly a red card kind of instant, we are not going to suspend him, and that we are going to give him a warning for that. And I understand there are a lot of people that are not happy with this, and I'm kind of one of those people. I completely disagree with the fact that he doesn't need to be suspended. Like, he should at least be suspended for a game or two with that incident. I mean, that incident is as sinister as many incidents that we have seen so far this season. But the reason why I'm kind of not surprised with this is because this is Zlatan, and the fact that he has been kind of one of the biggest stars in the league, and that we've seen this before with Disco. Whenever they try to, they're in a situation where they have to deal with a disciplinary issue with a big star in MLS, they tend to be a little bit more relaxed than, let's say, a guy that is just a regular guy that is not a big name kind of player in MLS. There is no doubt that if this was somebody else, and that it's not a big name kind of player in MLS, Disco will definitely suspend them a couple of games. And that is just why it's so frustrated to see that not only Disco is being inconsistent with some of the suspension, but it's just the fact that it's clear that the whole kind of rumor of the fact that Disco kind of really just protect their star, and they usually are kind of biased in terms of not handing suspension to some of the star player in this league. Well, that rumor is kind of starting to become true, and this is an example of that, and this will definitely feel the rumor to be true. And yeah, I mean, I don't know what to say. I mean, I'm obviously disappointed from what Disco did here, but at the same time, I'm not very surprised because we've seen this before this season. But moving on into the next news is that Paul Arriola is reported to be interested by multiple clubs across Europe and Liga MX. So after a week where there was a rumor that Lucho Acosta could be leaving DC United, it looked like DC potentially is going to lose another key attacking player in Paul Arriola. And this is definitely an interesting situation with DC because, the thing is, if the right offer is there for Lucho Acosta and Paul Arriola, do you decide to sell them? Because if you do sell them, then you do earn a profit off of them, but at the same time, you're going to lose a lot of attacking power on that attacking end, and that attacking power this season has definitely been a bit of a struggle. So, the question is that if they do sell both of them, do DC decided to kind of go in a little bit of a mini rebuild to try to use that money to get some other players to trying to replace those players from the attacking end? Like, I also have heard that they are planning to replace a couple of, they already are thinking of signing a couple of players to replace Arriola and Lucho Acosta, but it's not a big name kind of player, and that is what I am very concerned about this, because it's not like if there is a plan where they're going to sell them, and that they got the right offer for both of those guys, and that they're going to use that money to basically replace him with another big star or a guy that is better than both of those players, then I have no problem that they of course are selling. But from what I heard, that they're trying to replace them with a couple of college guys and a couple of guys from the draft. Yeah, I am a little bit concerned about that, and that we shall see. We shall see if this rumor, of course, would come true. I mean, I haven't heard a lot about the Lucho Costa situation. The deadline is coming in terms of the transfer window, and it will be interesting to see if we're going to hear these kind of news again before the end of the transfer window. But moving on, Columbus. They have been busy this transfer window, and it's no doubt that there's no surprise that Columbus has been very busy this transfer window because they are definitely in a full-on rebuilding right now after this terrible season that they've been having, and they decided to continue the rebuild by signing a young Scottish midfielder called Chris Caden from Oxford United. From what I heard, he is a very young, talented kind of player. Also appeared for the Scotland national team a couple of times, and yeah, I think this is definitely a decent signing for Columbus. I mean, we talk about how a lot of teams are trying to get these young South American players to their team and that it will of course be successful. Well, don't forget, some teams are also trying to get some young kind of European player to try to come into this league, and we kind of started to see a little bit more often now where you've been seeing a lot of kind of Scottish player like McKay Stevens, Johnny Russell, and now Chris Caden coming into the league. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see if this, of course, would work out. But other than that, I think this is definitely a smart signing for Columbus that is trying to rebuild and trying to build a foundation for their future in these upcoming season. But moving on into the next news is that Montreal decided that they are going to be releasing Harry Novello, and this move, as much as I thought that this was definitely a good signing for Harry, that Montreal signed Harry Novello because he has that experience, one of the things that I didn't realize is that he is kind of become a bit of a journeyman, and that he has played, I think, 10 clubs now ever since he joined with Montreal, and that this was his 11th club, and that the last 10 club that he joined have basically warned the upcoming club that's going to sign him that he is not a very good player. He definitely has the talent to be a talented player, but he doesn't really show that talent, and apparently Montreal didn't really understand, didn't really acknowledge that warning and kind of ignored it, and now they found the consequences of the fact that he only scored 1 goal and assisted 2 in this season, and that he is not really the player that they want to get. So yeah, no surprise the fact that they decided to release him and also free up an international spot because of that. But moving on, some fun news that I'm going to be talking about in these last 2 news of the week is that James Harden decided that he is going to be joining the Houston Dynamo ownership group. So the good news for Houston is that they did sign a big name kind of player, albeit it's not really from MLS and that it's more from the NBA. At least they are getting one of the guy that they I'm pretty sure a lot of Houston fans are very familiar, if of course they also watch NBA or watch the Houston Rockets. But the bad news for Houston is that James Harden doesn't play for you, and that he plays basketball instead of soccer, and that he did only buy about 5% stake of this Houston Dynamo ownership. So he's not going to be the majority owner and the one that's going to be controlling all the signings. Man, imagine if he decide to buy majority stake of the Dynamo and that he's going to be the majority owner. That would definitely be a very interesting. I would definitely be down to see how James Harden decided to run the Dynamo, and that the Dynamo has always known to be one of the cheapest team and one of the lowest paid team in the league. Well, with James Harden now in this team as the owner of this team, does that mean that it will pump in some money so that the Dynamo can use that money and sign some big time player? But unfortunately that won't be the case in this instant, because he's only going to be a minority owner in terms of him decided to join this ownership. And moving on into the last news of this week is that FC Cincinnati decided that they are going to release their rendering of their new training facility, and I actually have a picture of it right here. It's a little bit blurry because it's on an iPhone, but yeah, this is their new training facility. Obviously, I know the fact that FC Cincinnati has been having a poor season, and that it seemed like there is a very they don't really have a lot of plan of what are they going to do in terms of trying to turn this thing around and trying to maybe learn from the mistake that they had when they built the squad in the first place. But hey, at least they decided to show off their nice new training facility, and at least that's something that not every single MLS team does have in this league. Yeah, and also I'm talking to you San Jose Earthquakes. Like, where in the world is our training facility right now? But either way, guys, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash that subscribe button. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of these news, or is there any other news that I haven't mentioned on the board here? But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.